Thank you for attending NSF ANSI's 455-2 Good Manufacturing Practices for Dietary Supplement Certification Program Introduction webinar. Today we're going to discuss the family of GMP public standards available and NSF standards. In our agenda today, we're going to talk about the background of how the NSF standards were formed, the GMP standards, the certification process, resources available to you, and how to submit questions and receive answers. For 75 years, NSF International has lived its mission as a global leader in public health and safety. Through its dietary supplement GMP registration, product certification, and Cert for Sport programs, NSF leads the industry in providing quality, effective, third-party services. Facilities that proudly bear the NSF mark provide assurance that they're dedicated to upholding the highest quality standards in manufacturing, packaging, and distribution. NSF partnered with stakeholders to provide solutions to everyday challenges within the health science industry. There were several key challenges presented to NSF by our stakeholders. On your left, you'll see retailers. They had a unique challenge or challenges that they were unable to review audit results and that the GMP audits were not mitigating their supplier risk. On your right, the manufacturers also had unique challenges. They had challenges of audit fatigue and different retailer requirements. But we found something that was in common between the retailers and manufacturers, and that was the inconsistency between audits and auditors, as well as the interpretation of the standards. NSF focused its effort to address the most common industry challenge, which were the inconsistencies between audits and auditors, as well as the interpretation of GMP requirements and guidance. Our goal at NSF is to ensure those key challenges were met with a solution to standardize the industry while providing continual improvement for supply chain good manufacturing practices. NSF's Joint Committee of cross-functional members was established with multiple stakeholders from the industry. They created guidelines that include industry regulations, retailer requirements, industry best practices, and ISO 9001:2015 guidelines. So now we're going to talk about the GMP standards. There are three GMP standards: NSF ANSI 455-2, Good Manufacturing Practices for Dietary Supplement; NSF ANSI 455-3, Good Manufacturing Practices for Cosmetics; and NSF ANSI 455-4, Good Manufacturing Practices for over-the-counter drugs. The first major key challenge was addressed with NSF Standard Writing Division, which superheaded the creation of the standards, meeting the challenges of having consistency for the dietary supplements, cosmetics, and OTC drugs with its stakeholders. In 2018, these three standards were approved by ANSI and published. Not only did these standards get published, but also audit requirement guidelines, which were developed as a guidance for the interpretation of a standard's intent. For the sake of this webinar, today we're only going to focus on NSF ANSI 455-2, Good Manufacturing Practices for Dietary Supplements. So, the GMP standards sections. The standard was laid out based on ISO 9001:2015 guidelines, and the sections are in accordance to the ISO guidelines. You'll have number 1, general, normative references, definitions, audit requirements, the audit process, and an informative Annex 1 which shares about how certification bodies will handle appeals, complaints, advertising, and confidentiality. For the sake of time, we're going to focus on two of these standard sections, will be the audit requirements and the audit process. The GMP standard sections and audit requirements is laid out as ISO guidelines. You have concepts of organization, leadership and commitment, organizational roles, responsibilities and authorities, planning, support, operations, performance evaluation, and improvement. For the audit process, in the standard, it will talk about the audit process introduction, audit and certification process outline, audit preparation, audit planning, the on-site audit, reporting and grading, nonconformance and corrective action, and post-audit activities. So we have an organization called the Global Retailer and Manufacturers Alliance, GRMA. They're an independent nonprofit organization with majors from most major retailers, manufacturers, trade association, public health and safety organizations, and certification bodies. The Alliance goal was, the Alliance was formed and developed to make sure that they had an auditing scheme that had a consensus-based quality system standard for good manufacturing practices. Through the American National Standards process in several non-food industries, GRMA accepts NSF ANSI's 455 GMP standards as a scheme owner. The second challenge was addressed by this independent nonprofit organization called the GRMA. The GRMA addressed stakeholders' concerns of auditors and audit inconsistency as a scheme owner. The goal is to ensure to provide a platform where all certification body members, retailers, and manufacturers will receive consistent training, calibration, and implementation of audit criteria based on ISO 17065. So GRMA is a champion of auditing against the NSF ANSI 455 GMP standards for dietary supplements, cosmetics, and OTC drugs. Their goal and mission is strengthening safety, quality, and trust throughout the supply chain, ensuring consistency and proper training of auditors, reducing the number of audits and financial costs associated with audits, combining regulatory requirements, industry best practices, and retailer quality requirements, and they're having all certification body members able to audit against this new standard. Next, we're going to talk about the certification process. So this is a certification process overview. Starting from the top left to right, everything in green is a client responsibility. Everything in blue is NSF's responsibility. Before you obtain an audit, the standard, it states that you should have a self-assessment. You could do it independently or have a third party conduct your assessment. You apply for the certification to your certification body. You plan the audit and execute it. Then you'll receive a completed audit report. After that completed audit report, there will be a management review and a report review with your GMP ratings assigned. If applicable, if you have any corrective actions, you will have to submit a corrective action plan. Then after the approval of those goes to cert decision. Then you're issued a certificate within 12 months, and after those 12 months will be the recertification. So this is a high-level overview of the certification process. The certification audit cycle. The certification audit cycle is the certification audit, which will be your initial audit. Your initial audit, if you get a grade of A or B, you would go directly 12 months later into your certification audit. If you get a grade of a C, you'll get an audit within 6 months from your initial audit. And if you give it a grade of a D, that is a failure, and you will have to redo your certification audit again. So the certification audit is very simple. It covers the entire applicable standard. Frequency of certification audit is initial, and it's a minimum of an annual audit. You will have a visit confirmation agenda that will be sent at a minimum of 1 week prior to the audit, but you will receive it usually way in advance. The average duration is 3 days for the audit, and it depends on the facility and the size of the facility of their duration. Grade is assigned upon release of the audit report. It will not be done during the audit. Now you have the monitoring audit, which requires for a company of C, for their certification audit, that grade that they received, a company can obtain this monitoring audit within 6 months of the initial audit. The monitoring audit only focuses on verification of corrective actions from your previous audit, and the duration is approximately 1 day, but it does depend on the size of your facility and the scope. A grade is not assigned at this audit because you will already have a grade of a C from the initial audit. This is just confirming that you have implemented the effectiveness of these nonconformances. And you can also receive a monitoring audit if you have a grade of A or B if you fail to close out those repeat nonconformances from your previous certification audit. Certification audit failure. This is a grade of a D. All nonconformances shall be addressed through the corrective action process and approved by NSF before requesting a new audit. This new audit will be a complete and entire full certification audit. Facilities shall be scheduled and execute the initial and annual audit within 6 months. So next, we're going to discuss the recertification audit. The recertification audit is your annual certification audit that will cover all applicable standards. This is performed 12 months after the initial audit. You will also be receiving a visit confirmation and an agenda 1 week prior as a minimum, but usually you will receive these way in advance. Grade is assigned upon the release of the audit report, and remember, a grade of A and B may require a monitoring audit if they do not close out their previous nonconformances. Let's talk about the pre-audit process. The pre-audit assessment can be conducted by your organization or a third party to ensure you meet the NSF ANSI 455 standards. Then you go to an application. The application will require information about your organization to determine the scope of the audit, duration, and other pertinent information to ensure NSF can perform your audit. Audit visit prep, and this is preparation, and this is how you can prepare several ways for the NSF ANSI audit. At a minimum, you'll receive your agenda 1 week prior to the audit. Remember to flag your email. You may receive it way in advance to your audit. During the application period, a set time and date will be established for your audit, and that is a great way to ensure that production in the scope is being manufactured at the time of the audit and communicated to your senior leadership, operations, production, planning, laboratory department, and staff. The organization's participation and giving the auditor access to the entire facility will give the audit a smoother execution. The audit process. The audit process is very simple. You will have an opening meeting. In accordance to the standard, attendance for senior leadership, managers, quality unit, and other supporting staff will be present at the opening meeting. The auditor shall review and confirm the agenda as well as the scope of the audit, number of buildings, and review the classifications of findings. The auditor must have full access to the facility and will tour the facility to inspect the premises and processes during the facility tour. The closing meeting is also, we require senior leadership, managers, quality unit, and other supporting time to be part of the closing meeting. All non-conformances will be reviewed verbally and issued in writing within 10 business days of the last day of the audit, along with the final audit report. The post-audit discussion will consist of an overview of the corrective action process, issuance of the report, and the final grade, which will be determined upon technical review of the final report. Grades will not be discussed at the time of the audit. Please refer to NSF ANSI 455 standard or the presentation for the grade table. So the audit process and the audit template. During the next slide, we'll discuss the NSF audit template, which differ in structure but not content from the NSF ANSI 455 standards. NSF conducts audits based on quality management systems. Audits in QMS system and process flow will help facilitate and allow the auditor and the client to get a complete picture of the health of the system. Now, the audit template quality management structure. If you see to your left, you'll have several sections. One will be visit summary, client logistics, administrative and regulatory, quality management, corrective actions and preventative actions and complaints, supplier qualifications, product safety, facility, production and process controls, which includes manufacturing, packaging operation products, specification release and returns, laboratory controls, warehouse and distribution controls, and NSF certification policies. So the visit summary states the participation of a facility and employees. Client logistics will state more information about the facility and the organization. Administrative is information about the FDA registration. Quality management refers to personnel, hygiene, training, document control, etc. Supplier qualifications is how you qualify your supplier. Product safety will include cleanliness of the facility and equipment, as well as your hazard analysis. Facility focuses on infrastructure, pest control, etc., and equipment. Production and process controls focuses on manufacturing, which are MMRs, batch records, packaging, which is finished product or bulk packaging, product specification, release, and return. The laboratory controls focus on test methods and operation, and warehouse and distribution is the storage of ingredient components, packaging, labeling, and finished products. And the NSF certification policies, compliance to NSF certification policies, these do not count towards your grade. However, if there are any non-compliances, this will be established there. The post-audit process. First, you will go through a technical review. It ensures the technical accuracy of the report. The final documentation you will receive is a final audit report within 10 business days of the last day of the audit, as well as a corrective action report. The corrective action review is the review of a CAR submission through NSF Connect for closure of those non-conformance of the corrective action plan. Those are due within 10 business days of the receiver CARs. Next is the certification. Facility certification will only be given if you receive a grade or a B and after the successful completion of the monitoring audit for a grade of a C. Upon successful completion of the grade and the NSF policies, you will be publicly listed on nsf.org. This is NSF's ANSI 455-2 GMP Dietary Supplement Grading Criteria. This can be found in Section 5 of your standard. This grade matrix we found a few errors in the published version, and we found that a grade of a C needed some corrections and a grade of a D. So the recommended changes on this chart by NSF were submitted to NSF ANSI 455-2 committee to remove the gaps and overlaps of grades. NSF will follow the recommended changes when determining the audit grade. Part of the post-audit process is your secure online portal called NSF Connect. NSF Connect, you can submit your CAR responses, check paid invoices, access applicable NSF policies, standards, requirement documents, view your audit and CAR report history, and you could also communicate with your NSF account manager. Part of the post-audit process and submission of your corrective actions are the status definitions that you will see. The corrective action responses for each non-conformance must be submitted and approved by NSF before the next upcoming GMP audit at your facility. Failure to do so may result in removal of your listing, and it can affect your certification. So these are the categories that NSF corrective actions follow. You have pending. That means the client did not submit the information. You have additional requested info. The technical specialist will need more information to approve or reject the CAR that was submitted. Rejected. The information is insufficient and will have to submit a new CAR, and then there's approved that there's no further action necessary. The plan has been accepted. Part of the post-audit process flow. If you see from left to right, we performed your audit, we conducted a report technical review, we have issued a grade and issued the audit and the CAR report within 10 business days. Then in green is client responsibility to submit CARs within 10 business days. Then the CAR reviewer has 5 days to review your corrective action plan, approve or reject. If a CAR is rejected or needs additional information, it would go through a rework process, and you will need to provide your CAR within 5 business days so it can be reviewed and be on time for the certification cycle. Once a CAR is approved, it will go to the certification committee, and you'll receive a GMP certification upon successful completion of A, B, or closeout of a C, and you also comply with NSF policies. Remember, overdue CARs shall result in suspension or denial of certifications. Our CARs must be approved before being considered for certification. So, the post-audit process, grade, and frequency of audit. This is just a recap of the certification cycle. If you have a grade A, you will have your next certification audit within 12 months. A grade of a B will also be certified within 12 months. A grade of a C will have a monitoring audit within 6 months from their certification audit. And D is to be determined. After NSF has verified the facility has demonstrated completeness and effectiveness of corrective action, a full certification audit is required. The post-audit process deliverables. At the end of each audit, you'll receive an audit report and a corrective action response report. CAR closure notifications to keep you on track of a 10 business day deadline, if applicable, a 12-month certification upon your original certificate date. So remember, certificates are valid for 12 months from the initial date of the audit. And once you're certified, you'll be listed on publicly listed on nsf.org. Once you get certified, you have the opportunity to market the NSF mark for GMP certified. Certified clients may utilize the GMP certification mark on advertising. However, they could not use it on any product. Please refer to NSF ANSI's 455 Standard Program Policies for more information on the use of certification marks. There is also more publications that we have to help you advertise with this NSF mark. So what are the benefits to NSF ANSI 455? It is retailer accepted. You have less audits per year. It helps you with continual improvement of your GMPs. And there's one single audit scheme, and industry GMP standards for dietary supplement, cosmetics, and OTC. You'll also get the use of the certification mark upon successful completion of your certification, indicating your quality commitment to GMPs. The public standards are updated by joint committee members, and you could also participate as a joint committee member and be a part of the standard writing process. And you will always have a dedicated NSF representative helping you all along the way. Next are resources. NSF is here to assist you by empowering you with the tools to successfully understand the NSF ANSI 455 standards by providing you the resources you see on the slide. Every NSF client will also receive a dedicated account manager to assist with matters including but not limited to contact changes, audit setup and scheduling questions, questions regarding the program policy, modifications to certified product, invoices, inquiring, mark uses requirement, marking collaboration. So those are some of the benefits of having a dedicated NSF account manager, as well as the resources of the certification policies, standard documents, audit requirement documents, which help with the interpretation of the standard, terminology for the standards, NSF 455 audit template, the information guide, transition guide, and as well, we're here to help you in every step of the way to be successful. So there are other NSF services. We spoke about standards writing divisions that help create the NSF ANSI 455 standards. They write standards to promote food, drinking water, indoor quality, dietary supplement, consumer products, and environmental safety. You could also be a stakeholder that participates in the standard writing process. Then we have testing. Our state-of-the-art laboratory tests products to all these standards. In the middle, you have certification, and we certify products to the standards. And we also provide for dietary supplements only the NSF 173 product certification, and that you'll have a certification on your product upon successful completion and certified for Sport 306. Finally, on the right, we have auditing. Auditing to conduct safety audits for food, water, and consumer goods agency. Separate from the certification division is consulting. They provide strategic and technical consulting for the dietary supplement, pharmaceutical, medical device, food and beverage industries, as well as cosmetics. And then you have training. We develop training specifically and education programs for the industry that you are in. How to submit your questions and receive answers. You can contact us with your questions at 455certification@nsf.org. We would like to thank you for the participation in the NSF ANSI 455-2 GMP or certification program for dietary supplements. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.